Lightning returns, Final Fantasy XIII, the end of a trilogy. First of all, Jonas, what do you feel about Final Fantasy XIII and the games that have been released up until now?
I haven't been entirely convinced, actually, especially not by the first game in the series, because it was way too scripted. I didn't care much for Lightning. It didn't really feel Final Fantasy the way I prefer.
It lacked a certain freedom, lacked a little bit of that sort of exploration and adventure that you're sort of used to.
Yeah, exactly. You have to follow this set road, do everything as Square Enix intended, and you didn't get any freedom to really play the way you want, which is crucial for a role-playing game.
Then they went back and they did Final Fantasy XIII 2, which fixed some of the issues, perhaps?
It did fix a lot of things. You could really tell that Square Enix had been listening to the fans and paying attention to what they said and actually fix a few things. But it still wasn't this really great game, but it was better actually.
And now Lightning returns, which is, it feels like it's a hard thing to come with a third game when it seems like they're in a downhill slope with the interest for it, but perhaps now they're going to nail it.
Yeah, that's a little bit ironic. I think the same thing, that they will have a somewhat hard time to sell this game in the same amounts as previous games. But yeah, you're right. This feels better.
So what's the setting? What's the story? What's going on here? What's new?
This is set 500 years after the XII one, or 1321 rather. And Lightning has been asleep for 500 years and woken up and has to save the world in 13 days because the ending is near. And well, that's basically it.
It's an interesting twist, and I guess Lightning is very much the main character, but and she's alone as well. There's no group thing. That's a very curious thing about a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, it is true. You're usually a group going on an adventure, but this time you're entirely alone. And Lightning has there's this new sort of game system that makes Lightning many character in one, and that actually works quite well. I got to play the game a few weeks ago, and it felt really well.
What does that mean? Is it real time that you switch between these, or do you switch up between each battle, or how does it work?
You have the different schemas from the previous games, but this time you can change them in battle. You don't have to exit the battle anymore to change the schemas. So you can switch between basically 3 different characters in one character and do it on the fly. And each character has their own active time battle meter, and it makes for a lot of interesting combos, really.
Is there synergies as well in play with that, so that you want to have a certain combination for a certain kind of enemy, or how do you sort of strategize that?
Yeah, exactly. You need to configure those 3 schemas before each major battle to make sure you have everything you need. You want the healing, do you want the black magic, do you want the jumping dragoon, or do you want the lancer, or do you want all those characters? They're there.
And does the game do a good job of sort of telling you or giving you hints as to what you might need for the next big battle? Or because I can imagine that with so many different things to switch between, that can be a little bit overwhelming almost.
Yeah, I think so. Probably true. I haven't played the game that much, but I would imagine that you're gonna have to escape from a few battles, reconfigure your schemas, and re-enter the battle and try again. But hopefully not as much as you did in the previous games.
No, because you are locked down for that battle with those 3, so you can't really switch it up. Once you're in there, you gotta play the deck of cards that you have.
Yeah, exactly. You're stuck with it. So, but I would guess that you're gonna get a few hints. If you're in a lava world or a fire world, I would assume water would be a good thing, and all those classic giveaways. But yeah, I will see.
And of course, that takes us back to the 13 days that you have to finish the game. And it really is a timer that's that's ticking away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you start with 7 days actually, and you get more and more time by playing the game. But 13 days, like the maximum, that's the end. And if you don't finish the game in those 13 days, which is not regular human days, but in game time.
How many hours are we talking about?
They said the game would last around 50 hours. So I would gonna have to assume that 50 hours is within the 13 days limit. But I don't know actually. But well, I mean, if you don't finish the game within a set time, you get the bad ending, and if you do it well, you get the good ending.
It's an interesting thing that sort of speaks against. I mean, as an RPG player, you want to take your time, you want to look in every chest, you want to look every nook and cranny and sort of explore that world, but it's a little bit different this time.
Yeah, I think the same way. I mean, that's role-playing game for me, and now you actually get the freedom which you didn't have in the previous Final Fantasy 13 games. And when you get the freedom, you get the timer to prevent you from, going and doing everything you want to do. But I mean, it might be a really great thing in the end, and you have the time going, actually affecting the game in other ways as well, like having people living in their own lives, entering homes, coming out of homes, going to work. You have to meet certain people at night, you have to do certain events early in the morning, and so on. So it adds something to the game as well, but we'll see how much it
adds a little focus perhaps to it as well, that you can't just, you have to be a little bit aware of what's going on, and you can't just be idle.
No, it's true. I mean, you have to do something all the time, and you can't just leave the controller, you have to pause the game for sure, make sure you really have done that. And if you escape battles, they have like a time penalty to prevent you from doing these things. And
you can't just escape your way to sort of save the world in record time.
No, exactly. No, you can't. No, you absolutely can't. And you should even avoid a few battles just to make sure you have enough time left. So we'll see. I'm not entirely sold on that system yet, but the game feels great. Other than that, yeah.
And it's February, right? That's coming out in February, or?
Yeah.
That's over there.
Okay.
It's February 14th.
Okay. Oh, great. Awesome.
So it's early next year.
Early next year. Yeah, exactly. Early, and Japan this month. Yeah.
You should know who I am. Or should I say, what I am. These are the final 13 days.